We are very privileged in this session. This is the Veterans and Patients Advocate session. Am I correct in saying that? I'm sorry, my head is a whirlwind right now. This is fun. If you're having a fun time, please let me know you're having a fun time. Technical difficulties aside, in this session we are very fortunate to have Matt Kahl here.
My name's Matthew Kahl. I used to be in the 101st Airborne Division. I was in the infantry, of course. We saw a lot. We saw a lot of stuff, plenty of trauma, and honestly, I've only just now come to realize that the military trauma rekindled a sort of deep emotional trauma that I had from a long time ago, early on in life, childhood trauma. There's plenty of childhood trauma to go around in this world, and as y'all know, at least 22 veterans a day kill themselves due to PTSD and suicide. But the fact is that we are just the tip of the iceberg. The vast majority of people that have PTSD do not serve in the military ever. 22 people a day are killing themselves in the military, but that's nothing compared to 112 in the general population. 112 people a day die. They kill themselves in the general population every single day due to PTSD and suicide. Because I challenge anybody to find me a suicide that is not the cause of some kind of trauma. It just is. That's the way it is. It's a fact of life. People kill themselves because of trauma, and this is a huge problem in our society. Veterans are coming back in increasing numbers to find out that America is not what we thought it was. You know, America, most of us, we signed up for freedom, for the principle of freedom, to be able to doctor ourselves, as Christala says. And we are being denied that right every day by the VA, by traditional doctors. So it's up to veterans now to really spearhead this issue. PTSD, right now it's a veterans issue, but it's much broader than that. We are happy to pick up this flag and carry it home for those who cannot, those who are still too hurt, too angry, too afraid to come out of the house. We are happy to pick up this flag and carry it for them and attempt to change the policy on PTSD and marijuana. When I first started treating myself with cannabis, the first thing I ever tried actually was a high CBD hemp extract, and it helped, but it didn't help as much as I thought it should. But when I was introduced to the high THC marijuana, I found that the psychoactive effects are exactly what you need. Because in PTSD, it's your emotions, it's your mental processes, and it's your mood that's messed up. And if you can't change your thoughts, your emotions, your mood, how are you going to fix PTSD? Well, you can't. You absolutely have to take something psychoactive in order to change that. So THC is an absolutely essential component in treating PTSD. The other things I think that a lot of people are not really educated on in treating PTSD are the other cannabinoids. Everybody knows about THC and everybody knows about CBD now. But like I said, CBD is great for pain control, and there are some emotional issues it can help in mitigating. But you need the psychoactivity if you're treating PTSD. And there are many psychoactive cannabinoids, not just THC. There's, of course, the Delta-9 THC, there's Delta-8 THC, there's THCV, there's CBN. There's all kinds of different cannabinoids that are psychoactive, and they all have specific benefits. Most specifically for me, I needed the high psychoactivity, but with high THC strains, many times that will trigger anxiety attacks, which are a huge problem in PTSD. So I started going about trying to find strains that had THCV in it. THCV is also, it actually intensifies the psychoactive effects, but for some reason it mitigates the anxiety of many strains. So I found a number of land races from East Africa that were high in THCV, and I credit that mostly with not only my ability to get over PTSD, but with my ability to heal myself from the traumatic brain injury. THCV has been extremely promising in treating a lot of traumatic brain injury-induced cognitive deficits, like memory deficits, things like that. I actually, for a short period of time after medevac, I lost the ability to read for a little while. And it was really tough. It took me hours to get through a sentence or a paragraph. But THCV and the combination of that with THC managed to get my brain to a place where I could sit down and read a scientific study and actually comprehend what was going on in it instead of simply reading the same words over and over again. One of the main things also about treating PTSD with cannabis is that cannabis in almost any form, almost any cannabinoid will actually decrease your endogenous production of cortisol. Cortisol is the primary stress hormone in the body, and it's also one of the main reasons why traumatic events codify themselves in your brain with such an intense representation. So much so that your brain will constantly revisit that memory. That cortisol is actually what triggers the mental codification of that memory. So if you can eliminate it, then you can possibly change the way that memory is codified. Now, one of the things that Chris Hall was saying earlier is that warriors have been using cannabis for a very long time, and I think there's a really good reason for that. It's been shown unequivocally to be able to not just treat PTSD once it's started, but it's been able to completely stop it from ever taking place in the first place. It will actually, if you take it at the time of a traumatic event, it will prevent that traumatic event from becoming a PTSD trigger issue. So I honestly think prior to about the 20th century, Afghan warriors were by and large seen as the most fierce and formidable fighting force in the world. And honestly, I think that it might have something to do with the fact that they use cannabis like no other culture on the world. This culture, they're not necessarily aggressive. They're hill tribes people. They're defensive in nature. They simply defend their land, but they've been forced to do it for a very long time. And they don't have any issues with going to war and coming back and being completely normal human beings afterwards. I think that is one of the major crucial pieces of the puzzle that's missing from military treatment, especially for PTSD. And of course for TBI too. TBI is probably the second most common military injury. And TBI, that was actually the source of the first cannabinoid patent by the American government, was as a neuroprotectant against ischemic issues and traumatic injuries to the brain. So I think between all of those various different aspects, this plant holds nothing short of a revolution in science and in medicine when it comes to treating military injuries and injuries of all kinds. It's been gone over before here that it is widely present in almost every system in the body. These cannabinoid receptors, they're not just limited to CB1 and CB2. There are at least 3 or 4 other putative, unrecognized cannabinoid receptors that it binds to very strongly. So this is an extremely complex system. There's not just one thing that attaches to it. There's no less than actually 6 endogenous ligands that will attach to these cannabinoid receptors. That's more than any other. Everybody knows what dopamine is, right? Dopamine makes you feel good. Well, dopamine has 5 receptors only and 1 endogenous ligand. You go to cannabinoids, you have 6 receptors, at least 6 receptor subtypes and 6 endogenous ligands. So you're talking about a vastly more complex system. This has amazing potential in the treatment of almost every condition known to man, and the fact is it's safe enough that we can try it for anything. That's all I have. Thank you very much.